Now here, of course, when we were talking about what might happen next, we were talking about the Iranian attack last Tuesday. And since then, we have been talking about whether Israel will respond back to Iran, what will happen. Now, on Wednesday, we shared the news that Israel's Defense Minister Gallant will go to Washington. He will meet with his American counterpart, Austin. We were wondering whether the response to Iran would take shape after that, but now we have just heard that it has been cancelled. Gallant is not going to Washington. Now, here are the views on what kind of response he will give. Of course, the most feared scenario is the consideration and striking of nuclear targets. There are warnings from the US on this point. They say be proportionate, don't hit nuclear targets. But as you know, if US President Joe Biden makes a statement, don't do it this way, a few days later, we see that it has already been done that way by Israel. Will it be the same this time? What is Iran's nuclear capacity? Let's start talking about that. There is also Israel's nuclear capability. If Iran targets Israel's nuclear capability this time, what kind of a picture will we face? One really doesn't even want to imagine. There was a map we prepared about Iran's nuclear facilities. Natanz, which we have heard of the most, has been targeted by the US and Israel several times before. Again, when we look at other nuclear facilities, and oil facilities are also important. Of course, maybe oil facilities can be taken into consideration in Biden's statement, and if that happens, it will undoubtedly be a very grave picture for the world in terms of oil prices. The Iraq heavy water reactor is also important. It was reopened after America's withdrawal from the nuclear deal. It has a daily operating capacity of approximately 630,000 barrels. When we look at the nuclear power plant in this city, let us share with you the information that it is the first and only nuclear power plant in the country. Asolye Natural Gas Terminal Tehran Refinery has a daily capacity of 250,000 barrels. Fordo Nuclear Facility, a very, very important facility for uranium enrichment, is considered to be in second place. Isfahan, which we hear a lot about, has a daily processing capacity of 375,000 barrels. It is a very, very important center for Iran, and Bandar Abbas Refinery is a refinery with a daily processing capacity of 350,000 barrels. Now, Mr. Mead, I had to interrupt you, and if you would like to complete this topic, please go ahead.
So we can move on to the new section?
Yes, this is the information we have about Iran's. It is crucial to assess Iran's nuclear arsenal, as you have mentioned in the past. We must determine whether they have developed or intend to create an atomic bomb. What is presently known about Iran's nuclear capabilities? Moreover, do you believe there is a possibility of Israel targeting them in the future? The existing text contains 365 characters.
I think it was yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Armenia has a center like the one we have, you know, a center that measures
earthquakes.
They talked about an underground explosion or more. Precisely an underground tremor in Iran, which corresponds to 4.2. Yes. But the seismic characteristics of this tremor, not an earthquake, they said it corresponded to an underground nuclear test. Now, we have been saying from the beginning, if you want to get into the nuclear club, it's not as much as your uranium, but when you try it, they let you into that nuclear club. Now, in the past, for example, one of the most severe examples of this is, well, Pakistan. Pakistan completed the nuclear process after India became a nuclear power, and after that it was subjected to a huge embargo. And those embargoes still continue. For example, Israel, despite being a nuclear power, does not declare that it has nuclear weapons.
But of course it does, doesn't it?
For example, it does, but it doesn't declare it. For example, North Korea says it is a nuclear power. But Israel, for example, does not declare that it possesses great power that is undeniable.
But here, of course, the International Atomic Energy Agency has stepped in, and everyone knows about its...
The entirety of its being is aware,
officially.
even gauging the extent of its own strength. It is a universally acknowledged fact that the kind of weaponry it will unveil is well known. We were anticipating Iran to demonstrate that it has become a nuclear power. However, it must now provide proof of its nuclear capabilities. What were the original estimates regarding Iran's possession of nuclear weapons? When you look at the enrichment process, at the beginning it was said that the enrichment rate was enough to make possibly between 5 and 6 nuclear bombs were found. It may have reached that. But there is a possibility that he could have made that many weapons. And there was a very high probability that they would have put this into practice. For example, Israel has been saying all along for about a year, now that they possess nuclear weapons, the Americans claim that they are in close proximity. Many states in Europe were saying that they now have nuclear weapons. It's similar to yesterday's test because in the end we don't have any data. But the fact that this has been announced, I think, it means what I have been saying all along, that Iran has a nuclear capability. So you
can say this.
Why the troubles? Have made such a move? Nuclear weapons serve as an effective deterrent in the end. At the end of the day, it is a potential power. You have access to power, and you are actually creating a shield over your territory. There is a deterrence that comes with being a nuclear
power.
One of the biggest features of weapon systems is deterrence. You know, people say, why would he do such a thing when there are so many embargoes? What do you mean? How else? Are they going to embargo? I mean, what are you going to do extra? Are you going to strangle them? What didn't you put an embargo on? There's already an embargo on everything related to Iran.
Have we worsened the situation? Was there a secretive nuclear test carried out by Iran?
He tested his nuclear weapon. It used its nuclear weapon. I mean, it tested and used it underground on a certain scale.
In the end, it can't be proven.
Actually, it is provable. Actually, it can be proven. I mean, because you know seismic data is like the same thing. You go to a cardiologist, you look at it, you don't understand anything, but the man says you are having a heart attack right now.
So are these missiles those missiles?
These are ballistic missiles. This one will gain the ability to shoot from this one. For example, some of them say something like this. It has nuclear delivery. Not all ballistic missiles are capable of launching nuclear warheads. Keep in mind that not every missile possesses this capability.
For example, Fetter has it.
It needs an equipment for that. Some say so. Some missiles, for instance, may make that statement.
Yes.
It has the capacity to launch nuclear weapons. For example, Israel's submarines have the capacity to launch nuclear weapons on their submarines. For example, this is a submarine that Israel built. It is a submarine developed together with the Germans, but it has the missile capability to launch nuclear weapons. Now we are seeing it. We will continue to see it. I think if you ask me, I've been saying from the beginning he had nuclear weapons, but he didn't test it. I think he tested it and put it into practice. So why isn't America making a loud noise about it? Because if it does, it will have to intervene before the elections. Would Biden want that? I mean, would Biden want that? Would they talk about it? They know, but they don't say it. I think it's more accurate to